This video is the second part of my journey to make the most satisfying game ever made. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch that video. I promise this one will still be here when you finish. I had set out to make the most satisfying game ever made, as part of a 1-week game-making competition following the theme, Less is More. I used science to understand how game juice works, and to theoretically create a game from the feeling rather than adding the feeling to the game. Part 1 left off with 2 days left in the game jam, and my project encountering some unexpected bugs and setbacks. Time was winding down, and the pressure was building, but I remained calm. I diligently worked to fix all of the game's camera problems and bugs, but the game was in a worse state than I had originally anticipated. When the game was finally restored to a working state, I designed and implemented a shop system that would pace the game and allow the player to unlock and purchase greater and greater upgrades as the game progressed. Yes, it was already the last day of the jam, and yes, I had already been awake for almost 24 hours, but luckily for me there was still 16 hours left before the game was due. And at this point, I was so sleep deprived and pumped full of caffeine that I was writing code at speeds never before seen. I started tackling each upgrade type one by one, using fancy shorthand coding techniques and clever shortcuts. I ended up using all kinds of data structures and search algorithms. I was remembering things I have no recollection of even learning. Of course plenty of bugs popped up, but I smashed them as I went. My thoughts were flowing freely, and every neuron was firing at maximum capacity. I was on a roll. Nothing could stop me. I started adding on small features and animations all over the place. Less is more? That's ridiculous. That doesn't even make sense. More is more. I tore through my neatly organized code, leaving a trail of destruction wherever I went. I would not be stopped. It was at this point I must have blacked out while I was flashing back and forth between the Unity editor and Visual Studio, because I just can't seem to remember everything that happened. But when I regained consciousness, there was still about an hour left in the jam. Perfect. Oh man, the game was looking incredible. I thought, I'm totally gonna win the jam. But just to seal the deal, let me add a few small quality of life changes. 40 minutes left. Quickly add an upgrade pricing system that will scale with the game and balance the upgrades against one another. 10 minutes left. Wait, just one more thing. Code test. Okay, 4 minutes left. I think I'm ready to submit. I flew over to itch.io while starting the build for my project. Open the jam submission page, upload my game. You must create an account first? Oh frick, why didn't I think of this? Okay, quick, what should my username be? Gotta think of something good. Man, I'm hungry. I really haven't eaten or slept in I don't even know. Wait, shit, username, x-ray dev, password, keyboard smash. Yes, okay, how much time? 1 minute, okay, upload game. Okay, where do I put the file? Title, roll. Description, roll. Where do I put the file? Picture, here you go. Where? Oh, here it is. It's not taking it. Why is it not taking it? Ah, frick. I had failed. I was crushed, but more importantly, I was exhausted. It was time to eat and sleep. I could be depressed in the morning. Well, now what? I had this game, not even really a full game, just a jam game with no jam to submit it to. It still had a number of bugs due to my haphazard coding craze and just felt like a big waste of time. But wait a minute. It's not about the game. It was never about the game. It's about the juice. I started out wanting to make the most satisfying game possible, and this game is still missing so many elements that I initially wanted to include. In part 1, I talked about how for something to be satisfying, it needs good visual and auditory feedback, yet the game doesn't even have sound. The project was simply too big to complete in a single week, so I vowed to continue working on it until I felt like it was done, until I had made the most satisfying game in the world. Only then would I stop. As I just mentioned, the game desperately needed sound effects, and I was actually pretty excited to work on this. I've never done sound design before, and it would be good practice for the next update to my other game, Construction Destruction. My process for making sound effects basically consisted of me grabbing a whole bunch of items around my house and smacking them against each other until they made a cool sound. If you're looking to do sound design, I highly recommend this video by Jonas Tyroller, which really helped me out. I tried so many different sound effects for the roll and dot collecting until I finally found ones that gave me that perfect, satisfied feeling every time. I also made sure to record slightly different variations of the same sound to make sure they didn't sound too robotic or fake. Surprisingly, using actual dice just didn't really work for any of the effects in the game, and some of the more unlikely candidates like putty and a chip clip were winners. Hooking up the sound effects in-game really took the game juice to the next level. But I didn't give myself too much time to enjoy it because I had to start thinking about music. I have some really limited experience making music in the past, but no experience with actual digital instruments. I tried using Bosca Seoil, which I had used to make a song for a school project once, but I knew I wanted something slow, soothing, and satisfying, which didn't really fit with the arcadey sound profiles of the program. I also tried finding some pre-made meditation or relaxation music that was free for commercial use, but the free options were super limited and none of the songs really fit. My last resort was to use GarageBand, which is actually where I have the most experience. I've made a handful of songs that I think are pretty decent actually, but I don't own a Mac, so I was reluctant to turn to my phone as a composition tool. However, after playing around for a while, I finally made a song that would perfectly capture the mood of the game. With the snappy sound effects and slow, soothing music in-game, the juice was finally right. I mean, I seriously was having so much fun just pressing the spacebar, and it's super satisfying the way the dots flow across the screen and lightly tap the scoreboard. The game feel was now perfect, but the game itself still had 3 main flaws. Number 1, there's no real objective or end goal. You can play the game for that juicy, satisfying feeling, but the game is never complete. And science tells us that one of the keys to feeling satisfied is finishing a task, so we never get that big payout at the end. Number 2, eventually, once you've built a decent set of dice, the satisfaction level kind of plateaus. There's a huge satisfaction difference in collecting, say, 5 to 10 dots in a roll versus a few hundred dots in a roll. But the difference between 100,000 and 1,000,000 is not the same. Number 3, despite making several performance enhancements over the course of development, eventually there are just too many objects on the screen, and the game starts to lag. One solution, which addresses all 3 issues, is to limit the total number of rolls in a single playthrough and to create a leaderboard/high score system. By limiting the number of rolls, we can ensure that the game ends before performance ever becomes a problem, and before the satisfaction starts to plateau. The high score system gives the player an objective and is another source of juice, because it provides clear feedback when the player has done well. I also included a way for players to post their best score to a live global leaderboard, so they can find even more satisfaction in climbing the ranks, making the top 100, and beating their friends' scores. Of course, there was a lot more work to do behind the scenes, but after implementing this system into the game, I felt like the game was finally done. I had used science to craft the juiciest, most satisfying experience I could. And what started out as a fun thought experiment for a game jam grew into a fully polished product right before my eyes. We know that we feel satisfied when we complete a task, especially when it's a difficult one. And while you can feel every ounce of juice in Roll, the true most satisfying game was the game of making it. I completed my task. I took an action. Now I just need feedback. Roll is available right now on Steam, so go wishlist it, give me that sweet, sweet, satisfying feedback, and get notified when it releases next month. Wishlisting is completely free and it really, really helps me out. I put a lot of work into this game, these videos, and even the Steam page, so I would really appreciate you checking it out. If you want to further support my games or my channel, I just launched a Patreon page, and I really want to be able to provide you guys extra value here. So I've included some pretty cool rewards, including stuff like free copies of both my games, exclusive merch, and more. So go check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a satisfying day.